Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Paper Crane Yarns Knitting Podcast. My name is Ashley. I'm coming to you from my studio / soon-to-be local yarn store in a small town in Alabama. I am the dyer behind Paper Crane Yarns, and I also make project bags, some other things here and there. This is a knitting podcast, as I'm sure you have seen many times before, with all of the lovely podcasters, vlogcasters, what have you, floating around on the internet. But thank you for stopping by to hang out with me for a little while for some knitting chat. It has been, I think, 2 weeks since I recorded, and I have done a lot of knitting. I have a finished object to share, finally, and I have a half-finished object that was a surprising cast on, as well as a lot of progress on some other projects that I've been working on for a while. So I'll start with telling you what I'm wearing. This is a Felix pullover. This is Istex Letlopi wool, and it's in maybe heather brown or some kind of brown colorway with gray bits. And yeah, this is one of my favorite sweaters. I don't ever wear my brown one. I have a gray one that I knit first, and I prefer gray over brown as my neutral, so I have worn that one quite a bit. I've only worn this one a couple of times. Even though this one is better made, the first one I made was one of the first ever sweaters that I knit, and some of the lace detail on the shoulders is a little wonky, and these ones came out just right. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this sweater. I usually wear this over dresses, but today I just have it with some jeans. And anyway, you should knit this pattern because it's one of my favorites. It's this Letlopi. If you've never used it before, it's very rustic, as they say. It's very toothy, but I actually really love it. Once you've washed it a couple of times, or even just with your initial blocking, if you do a wet blocking, it softens up quite a bit, and it makes a really nice garment. Normally I wear it over something, and like a tank top or a dress, as I mentioned. I'm not really doing that today, and it's not bothering me, so the longer you use the Letlopi, I would say like the better it gets on your skin. So yeah, one of my favorite sweaters. I think it's so adorable. I love the eyelets, and they go front and back. Probably can't really see it, but there's also a cardigan version of this sweater that I would really like to make one day, but I just haven't done so yet. Yep. So where should I start? I suppose I will start with my finished object, which are these lovely socks that I've been working on for I don't even remember how long at this point. They are finally done. So this is Berroco Comfort Sock, I believe it is, the Wanaka colorway. These are actually 50% nylon and 50% acrylic, I believe. It's a synthetic blend of half and half. I think it's those two fibers. And I surprisingly really enjoyed knitting with this. It's very soft. So if you know somebody like my husband, for example, I've made him wool socks and he's never worn them. Not even once. They kind of are a decoration at this point because he doesn't like the way that they feel, but he felt this and he really wants a pair of these. So if you know somebody who's very sensitive to wool, maybe try using something like this. They are self-striping. I got them nearly spot on. They're cast on at almost the exact same place. There's a little bit of a difference with this purple bit, and so that kind of created a small difference in the toe. But ultimately they're pretty identical, which is surprising. Not that I didn't plan that, but that I was able to get it done after my catastrophe with my kitten kind of destroying the yarn ball. If you watched my last episode, I managed to salvage it, and I knit these. I went on a camping trip last weekend with my family, and I knit these I finished the second sock in the car on the way to Cheahaw State Park, which is where we camped. So I of course had other knitting to bring with me to work on for that camping trip, but this one I finished before I even got there. So that was nice to have a pair of socks completely done. It's my first pair in a while. Yeah, I really like these quite a bit. They're really cute. I have colorful socks. I think I only have colorful socks so far, but I didn't really have anything that was just such vibrant stripes, so these will be added to my sock box, and I'm really excited about them. I think I got a little bit hasty with the second sock. I'm gonna have to go in and kind of fill in this little hole right here. Just take some scrap yarn and kind of sew it shut. But other than that, pretty good, I'd say. I knit these on 9-inch circular needles, the Chow-Goo red lace that everybody talks about. Those are my favorite way to knit socks. I do like DPNs quite a lot, but not for an entire sock or an entire project. So, yeah. This is not following a particular pattern. This is basically just a vanilla sock. My frame of reference is always the Woolen vanilla sock pattern, and I do recommend her pattern if you need a go-to, or if you're a beginner sock knitter, to just check hers out, because she has a step-by-step video that you could follow to learn how to knit socks. If you have, I mean, you could probably go into it if you're a complete beginner. It'd probably help to have a little bit of knowledge, but if you just take it slow and pause it when you need to, keep cycling back to certain segments, just take it easy and go slow, you'll get there. So those are my stripy socks. So as I mentioned, I went camping, and I knew I was going to finish that sock sometime during the trip, and I would want something else to bring. I brought all of my knitting with me, but I didn't want to take most of it out because we actually had a crazy windstorm. There were wildfires also a couple ridges away that we could see from our campsite. We had the most beautiful campsite. We were sort of on the edge of a cliff, but these wildfires were so unexpected, and the whole area was filled with smoke, so everything left smelling like smoke. So I wanted to keep maybe some of my more delicate knits protected from that scent, because it's so hard to get out of your clothing. So I really only wanted to work on socks and one other project I'll show later. So before I went camping, I decided to bring along with me a printout of the Lamplighter socks pattern. I'll have that linked below with everything else. I can't remember the designer name. It's not an individual, I think it's a company, but it's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's one of the first patterns I ever downloaded, and it was well before I was able to either knit socks or knit color work, but I knew one day I had to knit these. So it kind of struck me before I went camping, and I decided to bring along what I would need, and I'm so glad that I did, because I've already finished an entire sock. I finished it in 2 days. I cast it on when we were camping, and I knit all of the rest of it the next day when we got home. So I'm carrying the yarn around in this tiny little project bag that I sewed some time ago. It has cranes, my 3 colors. My main skein is a skein that I dyed some time ago. It's kind of like a peaches and cream shade. It's really very much a tonal. It's not pure white. It does have a different hue. It is like a peachy pink. So that is my base. One of my contrasts is another yarn that I dyed. This is just a tonal black. Both of these were yarns that I dyed to knit Marianarella, or Lyrical Knits, her mystery knit along, The Nights Who Say Knit. This is from the one that I actually knit. It was like reds and yellows, orange, black. And then I had dyed a second colorway set because I thought I was going to knit 2, and ultimately I guess I decided not to, so I kind of used this yarn that was intended for that, for these socks. And then my third color, this is not one that I dyed. This was a mini that I got from Indie Untangled in my sort of goodie bag with all of the bonuses that they gave you if you purchased like that tier of ticket. This mini, I want to say that this is by 29 Bridges. It's the Little Miss Sunshine colorway. It's just a 75-25 sock. I believe it's 29 Bridges. I could be wrong, but that sounds right. I think it must be 20 grams. It's not quite mustard, which is what I wanted to use for the pattern, but it's a little bit more golden than one that I had in my stash that I dyed. That was a bright yellow, which was again from my Nights Who Say Knit kit. So anyway, those are my 3 colors. And this is the glorious, beautiful sock. I absolutely love this design. This really speaks to me. It's called the Lamplighter. Of course, I'm sure you can see why. I have lamps like these in my garden, so I am particularly drawn to this. And then this illuminated yellow and just gorgeous. So there's color work on the foot and of course on the leg. This was my first sock pattern, or patterned sock should I say, and I loved it. I was addicted to it. I need to now not develop second sock syndrome and just go ahead and cast on my second one so I can actually have the pair. Yeah, it's funny, like, I know we all do this, but it took me probably months to knit those self-striping socks. Easiest knitting project in the world. Took me months to do it. And then I pick up an arguably more difficult project and finish it in 2 days. And now I see it and I'm like, that's great. I'm gonna set it to the side. But I need to go ahead and do the second one. So yeah, I absolutely recommend this pattern. You could do this with any kind of color options, of course. This is pretty similar to what the designer used for their sample. They had more of like a golden brown mustard yellow shade, and I think they had more of a true white. Oh no, they had a speckled white with yellow and black, I believe. I think that the yarn dyer they used, it was a one-off meant for that sock pattern if I remember correctly, and then their other contrast was just a black yarn. So you could use any colors. Yeah, I can't stop admiring this sock. It's really beautiful. So with the color work, these again I knit on my 9-inch circulars, and I use 2.25 millimeter for all of my socks. So of course with this being color work, most people would tell you to go up a needle size for this, for the color work, and I probably could have or should have done that with DPN since I don't have another size of 9-inch circulars, but I didn't, and I guess I'll show you my floats. Originally it was kind of hard to get onto my foot, and now that I've let it sit on the sock blocker for a while, it goes on much easier, and once I wet block it, I think it will really be no problem. Once it's on, it's very comfortable and doesn't give me any issues. I still have some ends. I'll probably just leave these because they're woven in, and sometimes I get nervous about snipping it all the way, and if it's on the inside, whatever. But these are the floats. It's pretty. It still kind of looks, you can definitely see the lanterns. There were some rows that really do have you carry your float for quite a few stitches, like more than 5. So that part I think is what contributed to the tightness of the color work, but no big deal. And now it really is holding its own shape. Yeah, I love this sock. Okay, I will move on to my works in progress. That's the only finished object that I have, although I would have 1 or potentially 2 more if I did not run out of yarn. Okay, let's talk about those projects. So this next project is a shawl. I've shown it many times. It's my Birds of a Feather by Andrea Mowry. It is knit from Paper Crane Yarns Merino singles in my Sea Thing colorway, and the mohair, the silk mohair contrast is the Purl Soho Tussock in the Pink Fog colorway. And I've mentioned before, but this makes me think of one of the showgirls from Coraline. She's the shorter one. I cannot remember her name, but this is her to a T. I think she would like to wear this and drink tea with her schnauzers. Yeah, does anybody else love that movie? So as you can see, it's gotten absolutely gigantic. There's a portion where you sort of transition from keeping it's basically all the same amount of stitches at a certain point, but once you reach a certain width, you start to kind of shift so that where the center spine is, let's see, this is the right way, where the center spine is, the stitches sort of start to increase on one side and there's fewer on the other side, so it kind of changes the shape. But I ran out of the mohair. So when I was casting this on originally, I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, I was using leftovers from my sheer V pullover because that pattern called for 2 skeins, I believe, or 50 grams of the mohair, and I only used 1 skein, but I must have started into a little bit of the second skein. I don't remember. It couldn't have been much if I did, but I think I would have ran out regardless. So I had to order another skein, which makes me so sad because this project was supposed to be like a stash project, and otherwise I would have just ordered a different mohair color altogether, probably a black or a gray to go with this mint green, because I think that would have been more wearable for me. But oh well, at least they were on sale, I guess. So I've got to wait for that to come in. I got down to this amount left, and I still have maybe 3 more sections of mohair, plus I have to finish this one. So I thought about swapping to another one that I had left over from my Alho by Anna Johanna, and it's the Ito Sensai in the mustard colorway. So I thought that might be cool, but I really thought about it and it could have worked, but I didn't want to knit and find out the hard way that I didn't like it. So now I have to wait for that yarn. But I do think this is truly, truly gorgeous. I can't wait to wrap myself up in it. The lace is amazing. I think this is going to be a really nice piece for dressing up, or I kind of picture going, and it's probably because of the Coraline reference, but I picture myself going to the opera using this. But I recommend this if you are thinking about knitting it. You totally should. It comes to this beautiful point and it gets really, really wide, so it can wrap all the way around your shoulders and down your back once it's wide enough. And I'll, of course, once this is finished, show this a little bit more in depth. So because this is a merino single and a silk mohair, this thing is so light. So this was the seeping colorway. This was my second skein, I think divided into 2. I haven't even had to use any of this yet, so the 100 gram skein of the merino single might be enough to actually finish the whole project. But it's funny because when I remember reading the project notes before I started it, and I could have sworn it called for 2 skeins of merino single and 1 skein of mohair, but it turns out I'm needing the opposite, so I must have done something wrong. I don't know. But yeah, this is my truly gorgeous, delicate, absolutely lovely project that I cannot wait to use. This is one that has been on my needles for a while. I put it down to work on some other stuff, and then I picked it back up with a fervor and I wanted to finish it, and now I can't. So I hope that I still have that same sort of enthusiasm once the yarn comes in. Okay, my next project is another very nearly finished project, more so than Birds of a Feather. And again, I ran out of yarn. I was so upset because I was going like crazy on this project. I could have had this done a week ago. This is my Be Thankful cardigan, and this is being knit out of my Green Mountain Spinnery weekend wool that I got from Indie Untangled this year. I am basically done with it. I went ahead and ordered 2 more skeins. I might only need the 1, but I didn't want to order 1 and then need another one and not have had ordered it. So this is where I'm at. I have knit the entire body, basically. I have 1 full sleeve. And I'm nearly done with the second sleeve. I think I was right at the point where you decrease before your cuff. These sleeves are actually, they're kind of short to knit because it is a drop sleeve. So about this much is coming down onto your arm. So it's like you've kind of already done some of that work. And then the only other thing I really had to do was pick up for the neckband and the side band, the ribbing that goes all around the inside, and then of course attach the buttons. These are the beautiful buttons that I have for my cardigan. It's Moons and Stars. They're little wooden buttons. I got them on Etsy from Thread of Life Organics. These are so gorgeous. I think they're going to look tremendous with this cardigan, and I've tried this on in its current state, and I think this is going to be my most favorite sweater, something I will never take off. The fit is so perfect. This is a size small, and it is like an oversized, of course. We've got these beautiful balloon sleeves, which are my favorite, so this worked out really, really well. I love drop sleeves. This kind of construction I think is so pretty and very feminine. I think once it's all done, like I said, I'm never going to take this off. And this is the Chestnut colorway. I forgot to mention that. So I am knitting this as part of Maria from Woolen Force Knits, her Be Thankful Cardigan knit along. I talked about this in my last video, and of course you can go over to her channel. I think she's actually talking about it with her on her channel or her series with her husband, Knit Two Together. So go check out like her latest video of that or the one before that if you want to participate in this knit along. I think she's holding it till the end of the year, so there's still plenty of time. This is a really, really quick knit. This is only a couple days worth of knitting. So I can't wait to try it on and show you guys when it's done. I'm really hoping that yarn gets here as quickly as possible because I just want to finish this thing. Yep. So the pattern calls for an Aran weight wool, and this was like a worsted. I will be honest with you, as I always am, I don't check gauge. I didn't check gauge. I will check gauge once it's blocked, just out of pure curiosity, but I've reached this point and it fits perfectly, so I must have done something right. I'm not saying I recommend doing your knitting that way, but it seems to work out for me 9 times out of 10, and I say that, and one day I'm probably going to really regret it, but so far so good. So yeah, truly, truly gorgeous. I cannot wait to wear this thing, as I've said now 20 times. That's my cardigan. I would put it on to kind of sample it, but I think it wouldn't give you quite the correct effect over a worsted weight Felix. So next time I record, this will be done and I will be wearing it. So I just have one more project right now to actually update you on, and that is my Shawlography by Stephen West for his 2021 Mystery Knit Along, which has been over at this point. So, you know, if you still for some reason don't want to see it, you can turn off the video now, I suppose, but I am going to show it. I've just started on clue 3, so that's where I'm at. Yeah, this is being held in my Lila Styles Labyrinth bag, the most beautiful project bag of all time. I really love it. And I put this down for a while. I didn't knit on it because I was focusing on my cardigan and then my birds of a feather and the socks, but I just picked it up again pretty much because I ran out of the other wool and I didn't have a choice, but it's been nice to get back into it, and I finally finished the slog that is clue 2. That felt good to be done with that. So here were actually my 2 colors from clue 2. This is my Salt Lamp colorway, the Paper Crane Yarns Salt Lamp colorway, and these are all fingering weight yarns. This is a one-off that I dyed. It's just a beautiful purple. I mean, you can see it, I'm sure. Very, very nice. I'm also using this other one-off that I dyed. It's a pale pink. I would say this is like a very, very light mauve. It's a little bit more purple in person than it is on the camera. And then the colors that I'm currently knitting with, my A and B colorways. This is the Paper Crane Yarns Chrysalis colorway, one of my all-time favorites. And this was another one-off that I dyed with those other 2 one-offs to be used together. So this is what I'm working with currently for my brioche section. This is my first time ever knitting brioche, and I'm really loving it. I'm pretty sure that I'm doing it right. That's kind of hard to tell when you don't have a physical object with brioche in it to compare it with, but I do think I'm doing it correctly. Everything's working out. There's been a couple of hiccups here and there where maybe one of my stitches is missing one of the components and I kind of have to make it up as I go, but it's been few and far between, so I don't think it'll be that noticeable. So here is my Brioche. I really love these two colorways together. It's kind of hard to show right now because there is so much, well, even though it's a lot of knitting, it doesn't give you a lot of length. So hopefully by the next time I shoot this podcast, there will be a lot more to get the point across. But so yeah, I am on clue number 3. This is going to be hard to show because I'm in the middle of a row, so I can't open the needles all the way. Let's see the best I can do. So here is where you cast on. This was clue 1. You can see all of the colors are playing together as he said they would. This was this color B, this darkest shade, kind of is the framework for everything. I will say, if I could change one thing about this project, I would swap the orange for probably a cream, something that doesn't have the yellow tones, because in this section, for example, that orange next to the green, it kind of ends up looking like it's yellow, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. And I also would have preferred a different color combo for this section. I loved skeins together, and I think in a different project, I would have really liked the orange. Like, I like it here, but all in all, I wish that I would have used at least one true neutral, like with just probably a cream, or even black maybe, but yeah. Oh well, that's okay. It was a mystery. You don't really know what you're getting into, and I didn't decide to participate until the very last second, so I just used, of course, yarn from my store. This is my favorite section with the baubles, especially in this colorway. I think they're so fun. So I know lots of people are finished with this already, and as much as I am thoroughly enjoying knitting it, I've decided to just take it slow. At the beginning, I knit as quickly as I could, and in clue 2, I went into it with the same intention, but of course this section really kind of slowed me down, so I lost a little bit of that, and then I started all these other projects. So anyway, I'm just going to take the rest of it slow. I'm really in no hurry to get it done, especially since I'm not going to knit clue 4 as it is true to pattern. So I'm really having to deliberate and think about how to approach that. And if you're wondering what I mean, I don't want to knit the bold striped border that comes with the pattern. I'm going to replace it. I don't want to just bind off after clue 3 because I do want a bigger shawl, but I'm still figuring that out. I really loved Woolen or Kristen Layers. I loved her version. She used Stephen West's border from, I think, the Smocket shawl. It's a lace border and it's so gorgeous. She put notes on her Ravelry page for kind of how she started it, and then very, very loosely how she approached implementing that border into this pattern. I don't own that pattern, but I may purchase it for the sake of finishing in that same way, because that border was sort of where I saw this project going before I saw what was truly written into the pattern. So I think her version kind of looked to me like how I had hoped this would look. So I might do that or something similar. I don't really do much improvising, so I think it'd be pretty simple to just follow her recommendation, or not her recommendation, but follow her little notes about how she did that. I don't really need anything too complicated right now. So that's my Shawlography. Cannot wait to get this done. I know I said I would knit it slow, and I am, but that doesn't mean I'm not ready for the finished object. I think this will be very fun, and most people around here, if not all, basically are not knitters, so I think this will be really unique, and people around here are not going to have seen anything quite like this. I know I wouldn't if I hadn't learned about Stephen West and all of his very unique and intriguing designs. So, Shawlography! So that is it, I guess, for today's episode. I wanted to keep this one shorter, and I seem to have managed it. I guess the other thing that I will show, the last thing, is the newest colorway that I dyed. So today is Saturday, the 30th, I think it is. The 30th of November, I believe. I am doing a little shop update today that will be done before this video comes up, but I showed off what would be included in my last episode. I just didn't have a date, but I'm going to make it happen today. And so this new colorway will be included. This is my new Swampland colorway. It has teal and green, gold, lots of gorgeous jewel shades, and yeah, Swampland. So this will be part of it, and you may be able to find these in my Etsy shop even after this video does come up. I tend to have, the project bags tend to go pretty quickly, and then the yarn, you know, I can easily make more of this, so this will be a consistent colorway going forward, I believe. So, Swampland. Okie dokie, guys. Thank you so much for watching this much shorter episode. I mean, half an hour isn't something to scoff at, but it's, you know, half of my normal episodes, so hopefully you like this format. I'm gonna try to be quick about it going forward. I hope that you all are having a very lovely time and that you're enjoying everything you're working on. As always, it's a pleasure to get to chat with you all, and I'm going to spend some time this weekend hopefully catching up with some of my comments and messages so I can say hello and answer your questions, and we can have some knitting conversations. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and that you make something beautiful. All right, talk soon. Bye.